Carmignac. Marta Vilar, muy buenas tardes de nuevo, estás muy bien acompañada.
Efectivamente, me acompaña en estos momentos aquí en el plato de negocios televisión Maxime Carmignac, que es Managing Director en Carmignac UK. Maxime, thank you so much for being here in Negocios Televisión with us.
Thank you for having me today.
First of all, I wanted to ask you about, of course, ESG, environmental, social and governance criteria. But first of all, I wanted to focus on the G, on governance, specifically on women, on the role of women in the industry. I wanted to ask you to explain, please, the role of women as fund managers.
I think this is a vast question because there is today a big lack of women as a percentage of asset manager. At Carmignac, we are very lucky because we have 2/3 of our assets co-managed or managed by women. This is a lot. But the industry in general has a lack of women, which means a lack of diversity, which is a problem for teams working well and long-term performance.
Mm-hmm. Is there a difference in between, for example, a male investor and a female investor in the way they invest their money?
We notice that as a professional, women tend to have less ego, to be more short-term, long-term driven. And as clients and investors, I see a big difference in the sense that women are focused on the why. Why do I invest? And men on the how do I invest. Women, they want to know why do I invest. It's going to enable me at some point to buy a country home, to pay for the school fees of my children. A man, he lacks the gambling, the short-term effect. And with that, during COVID, lots of crypto trading from home. And they like to know they're going to have a US high yield or emerging market debt. So why women, how men, and women also are more interested in the long-term and sustainability.
Mm-hmm. How has the industry changed in this aspect, Maxime? Has it yet to adapt to these changes and to the introduction of female investors here as fund managers in the industry?
Yeah, I think the problem for me is even more women as clients than women as portfolio manager, because women are 50% of the population, and they are totally underaddressed today by the financial community. I think 2/3 of them, 2/3 of the women say they are poorly addressed by the financial community, which is totally unfair. I think the good thing is now there is a lot of attention of women in the professional world, good thing, but for me the elephant in the room is women as investors, to empower women financially to make their wealth work for them with compounding.
Would it be more profitable for investors to have women as fund managers?
I think I don't want to do competition between men and women. What I believe in is diversity. So when you have 90% or 87% of male PM, it doesn't bring the best possible diversity.
Mm-hmm. Leaving behind, speaking about women, I wanted to speak also about the different models of businesses. I wanted to talk about family businesses. Is it a more attractive investment to invest in a family business? For example, in Spain we have Inditex. It's one of the biggest businesses here in Spain, exclusively in the Spanish market, because it's a public company. It's in the IBEX 35. Is it more attractive to invest in these companies, family businesses?
So at Carmignac, we are biased because we are family businesses. But we made lots of work on family businesses. And we noticed that there is some clear trends that over the long term, family businesses overperform non-family businesses because they have the skin in the game, they have cost control because this is their own money, they are longer term oriented. I talked to a client this morning who told me that time flies differently in family businesses, and because they think about the future, they tend to invest more in terms of capex, in terms of research and development, and also I think there is this very special atmosphere in family businesses that employees feel like a part of the family extension.
Of course, because finally these people are going to, we could say, inherit these businesses, so that's why they think more in the long term, as you say.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about the ESG strategy of Carmignac. How is it different from other strategies, from other fund managers?
I think Carmignac, we take ESG seriously, we are very active and we are humble because there are so many traps today, but we cannot pretend to cover the whole ESG spectrum in terms of communication. So in terms of communication, we would like to focus on some subspace. For the E, we would like to look at the climate because this is so important for everyone. We cannot afford not to focus on climate. For the S, we are looking at the empowerment of both employees and customers. And the good news is we have lots of data now. Before it used to be a bit like wishy-washy, but now we have lots of data to show the power of engaged customers and employees. And finally, for the governance, there is a risk, I think, with ESG because we have so many tick boxes to do now, so many regulations, that we can lose the entrepreneurship spirit. So we are looking for a right balance between governance and leadership, and you can see that in family businesses, for instance.
To end this interview, Maxime, I wanted to go back to the women aspect. I wanted to ask you, what could we do to improve this? What could we do to get more women to work in these fund management businesses?
I noticed at my short career that what works is more flexible working, and COVID is helping for that. You also have to have realistic role models. You cannot have a superwoman with 10 kids and looking at a supermodel, you know. You need like normal women. You can inspire yourself. And you also need a male to engage about gender diversity, because otherwise you have a group of women and it looks like self-promoting and it lacks of diversity.
Maxime Carmignac, Managing Director at Carmignac UK. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marta.
Bueno, pues